Hello guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. So on today's video we are going to be making this underbust corset. If that sounds like something you're interested in, keep on watching. Let's get right into the video. So guys, in order for us to start drafting this, we are going to first of all make sort of like a basic pattern block, and this is going to guide us to making the underbust corset. So this is my bust point, my underbust, and my waistline. I just went ahead to rule the line, and what we're going to do now is we're going to take note of our shoulder measurement divided by 2, and we're going to mark this out, and then we're going to come down by 1 inch and mark that out, and this is going to help us create our armhole. Next, I'm going to go down by the same figure I had when I divided my shoulder measurement into 2. This is what I'm going to be using here, and I'm going to rule this out the way you see me doing right now. Next, I'm going to go ahead to just create a neckline. We're not going to be working with this actually, but I'm just going to use this as sort of like a guide, and then I'm going to rule this all the way down to meet with the shoulder slope we have there. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to come out here by 1 inch, and then we're going to carve out our armhole. So next, I'm going to go ahead to just start putting in my body measurement, which is my bust measurement divided by 4, my underbust measurement divided by 4, and my waist measurement divided by 4. But here I'm just going to go ahead to mark it at my waistline, and this is because my waist measurement and my underbust is actually the same thing. So I went ahead to rule it out. So next, I'm going to take note of my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2, which is going to be 3.5, and I'm going to mark it out from my underbust point all the way down. When I'm done marking this out, I'm going to go ahead to rule a straight line. So what we're going to do next is we're going to come out here by 1 inch, and I'm going to mark that out. Then I'm going to take note of what I have in between my bust point and my underbust, and that is 2.75, and I'm going to mark this here, and I'm going to use that 2.75 to mark all the way around. This is going to be our bust circumference, and then we're just going to mark this all the way around. And when we're done marking this out, we're going to trace the lines to meet each other, and you can see that we have a circle here the way you would do when you are drafting your corset. This is just going to serve as a guide. We're not actually making an overbust corset, we are making an underbust corset. So guys, this is what our pattern is looking like currently, and I just took note of what I had here, and what I have is about 5.5 inches. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my allowance at the sides. You can do this while cutting on your fabric. I just prefer to do it this way so I do not forget. So I'm going to add 1 inch sewing allowance all the way down, and then I'm going to go ahead to rule this out. So for the basque part of our underbust corset, you can see that this is our waistline, and I went ahead to leave about 5 inches at the bottom there for the basque. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead to mark out our basque, and I'm going to just rule it from this point here all the way down, depending on the kind of shape you desire for your basque. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use dotted lines to just trace this all the way down. You can also use your pattern master. I believe that is going to be much more easier for you. So I'm taking this from where my body measurement stops, not from the 1 inch allowance, and I'm just going to follow those dotted lines to highlight it better. So this is what it's looking like right now. Next, I'm going to use my marker to highlight this just so you see it better. So we are going to just take this all the way down again. So guys, like I said, the top drafting is just to serve as a guideline for us to draft the bottom part. So from this point where I came out by 1/2 inch, I'm just going to outline this in a curved motion because we do not want it to be straight at that point there. And I'm just going to outline this following the markings I made earlier. So you can see the way I'm doing this. I'm just going to outline this. So this is what our pattern is looking like right now. So here, this is our dart line, but I'm not going to be working with this for this pattern. So I'm going to create a style line on the opposite side, and this, your style line is determined by whatever it is you want. You can do this very differently. So I'm going to just slant mine like this, very simple. I'm going to just slant it this way, and then I'm going to roll it all the way down, and our pattern for the front is done. So this is what it's going to look like, and I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. After cutting this out, I'm going to go ahead to slit open our style line, and when we're done, we're going to go ahead to take this and place it on our fabric to just cut everything out. But before that, I'm just going to label this. So next, we're going to draft the back pattern, and you can see I just drafted everything the way I did for the front initially, and I added my body measurement divided by 4. So what I did for the front, I also did for the back as well. So what we're going to do now is, because this is our body measurement, I'm going to determine where I want my the back pattern to start from, and I'm going to be taking out 8 inches. So I'm just going to rule this out. So I'm going to rule this out like so. So this is where our pattern is going to start from, and I'm going to go ahead to highlight the other parts of the pattern the way you see me doing right now. I'm just going to go ahead to rule this all the way out, and next, when I'm done, I'm going to be taking out 1.5 inches from the back, from my back measurement. So I'm going to be taking this out because we are going to be having eyelets at the back of this underbust corset. So I'm just going to roll this down like this, and this is what the pattern is going to look like. You can see that it's very easy. We're going to go ahead to cut this out. So for a quick recap, I just drafted a basic bodice block. I added my measurements, and I went ahead to add 1 inch sewing allowance. Then on this part here, we took out 1.5 inches because we are going to be having a closure at the back. So we are going to just cut this out now. So this is what our pattern for this back is looking like. Now I'm going to bring in the patterns for the front because I want to correct something. So at this point here, we are going to be trimming off that part because we are not going to be having our armhole there. So I'm just going to rule this all the way. I'm going to rule a straight line, and we're going to be trimming out that part. So this is what we are going to be working with now. We are not going to be working with that part. So this is what it is going to be looking like. So next, we're going to go ahead to cut this out on our fabric. So these are the fabrics I'm going to be using for this. This is an Ankara fabric, and this is actually scrap fabric. So you can just save up fabrics that you would like to work with. So these are the ones I'm going to be working with because this is going to be a reversible underbust corset. So now I'm going to place this down, and then I'm just going to go ahead to cut, leaving 1/2 inch allowance at the sides, and I'm just going to cut everything. And when I'm done cutting, this is what the pattern is looking like. You can see that I went ahead to leave out 1/2 inch at the front and at the back for the patterns. I left 1/2 inches all around, except for the side, because we already added 1 inch sewing allowance. So now we are going to go ahead to do the same thing for this fabric, and this is what they are all looking like. I went ahead to iron interfacing on them, so this is what it is looking like right now. So now we are going to go ahead to just start joining. I'm going to start by taking this piece for the front. This is the front pieces, and we're just going to align them together, and I'm going to use my pin to just pin everything down so we can take this to the sewing machine to sew. So I'm going to sew on the pin down the other side as well, and then when we're done pinning this down, this is what it's looking like. So we're going to sew this here by 1/2 inch and do the same thing for this part as well. So this is what it's looking like. I went ahead to give it a good press. This is what it is looking like currently. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to sew on this part here. This is going to serve as our boning channel. So I'm going to take this to the machine to sew this down so we can add our bonings. So guys, this is what it's looking like right now. You can see I already went ahead to fixing the boning for this part. We are going to go ahead to do this one together. I'm going to go ahead to fix in the bonings here, and then we're going to join the back piece to the front piece. Next, we're going to be bringing in our back pieces, and then we're going to be placing this right sides facing each other, and I'm just going to align them together, and we're going to put in our measurements, and then we're going to sew the sides together. So I'm going to take this to sew. After sewing, this is what it is looking like. I went ahead to give it a good press, give everything a good press so it lays down properly. So this is what it's looking like, and I'm going to bring in the other fabric, and you can see that what I did for the first one is the same thing I did for the other one. Now I'm just going to align them together, and we're going to sew. But before we sew, we are going to just pin everything down together so that everything stays in place for us to sew. So I'm going to go ahead to pin this all the way around. So we've gone ahead to pin everything down. This is what it's looking like. Now we're going to go ahead to sew this from this point by 1/2 inch all the way to the other side. So we're going to take this to the machine to sew and give everything a good press. So this is what we have after we were done. I went ahead to flip it to the other side. You can see what it is looking like right now. So for this point here, we cannot leave it like this. We are going to go ahead to use our bra bone to fix this. You can go ahead to use this, or you can also go ahead to use bonings to do this as well. It's going to work. It's going to do the same thing basically. So we are going to sew this like this all the way up, and we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So now I'm just going to sew this as close as possible to our bra bone, and I'm going to sew this all the way around. So we are going to go ahead to just sew. So guys, this is what it's looking like right now after we went ahead to add our bra bone. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take our tape, and we're just going to measure what we have at this bottom part. So what we have here is 29.5 inches, and I went ahead to cut out the strip of fabric, and you can see that I joined the one for the front and the one for the back as well together, and then I just went ahead to iron it down. So this is what it's looking like. You can see that there are two different fabrics here, and you can see that I went ahead to just join them, and then I folded it in and gave it a good press. So this is going to enable us seal up the edges, like the bottom part of the top. So I'm just going to place it from this point, leaving 1/2 inch at the side. So we're just going to place it like this, and then we're going to sew this all the way to the other side. So guys, this is what it's looking like after I was done, but I went ahead to stop halfway because I realized I had not created my boning channels for the side. So you can see I went ahead to just create my boning channel for our closure at the back, and now we're going to go ahead to insert our bonings in so we can then continue sewing and seal up this part. So I'm just going to go ahead and fix in my bonings. So after adding the boning and finishing up the sewing, this is what it's looking like. So I went ahead to fold this part in and I stitched this part, and I did the same thing for this part here. And I'm just going to go ahead to trim off the excess. So this is going to allow us fold this part in like so. I'm just going to fold it upwards all the way to the other side, so you can see that we can now neatly sew on this. So I'm just going to fold this. You can go ahead to use your iron to give it a good press. So what we are going to do next is we're going to stitch this all the way to the other side. So I'm going to take this to the machine and then we're going to stitch this, so you can see what this part here is looking like. So guys, after sewing that down, this is what we have. You can see what our top is looking like currently. So now we're going to set this aside and we're going to bring in our straps for the shoulder. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take note of what we have here at the top, which is 8.5 inches. We took out 8.5 inches at the front and at the back. So divided by 2, we are going to have 16 inches. We are going to take out the ½ inch and then we're going to work with 8 inches. Divided by 2 is 16 inches. So you can see what we have here is 16 inches. I just cut this out. This is 16 inches by 1.5. So this is what we have, and I went ahead to iron interfacing on them. What we're going to do is we're going to hold them together and we're going to sew. Please take note that you're going to be holding the 2 different fabrics together. Here I went ahead to hold the same fabric, but please do not make that mistake. So after sewing, this is what it's looking like. You can see that at the edge I went ahead to sew this in a curved motion. So I'm going to go ahead to trim off the excess, and I left an opening at the side so we can turn this to the right side. So after trimming and flipping this over to the other side, you should have something that looks like this. And I also went ahead to top stitch all the way around to make sure everything is laying down properly. So this is what we have now. So now we're going to go ahead to add our eyelets to this as well as the main bodice. So guys, this is what it's looking like after we're done fixing in our eyelets to the necessary parts. So we're going to be using a velvet bias to attach this to the dress on this part as well as this part at the back. You can see that I added eyelets there too. So this is going to serve as the connection for the sleeves. So this is what our underbust corset is looking like. If you enjoyed watching this tutorial and you found it helpful, do not forget to like and subscribe if you're not yet subscribed already, and I will see you on the next one.